Greetings, Jay Stone here, Cap and Ball Fanatic channel. You know, last year, 2024, I did a series of shorter videos seeking to show the relative velocity comparisons between different brands of black powder and different brands of black powder and black powder substitutes. In addition, we showed the relative impact of barrel length on velocity and energy in a cap and ball revolver and a few other things along the way. So I thought as we get ready to move into the spring and summer of 2025 with a whole new series of videos, this would be a good time to bring all of those videos together in one place so that you can look at all of the data we collected in 2024 about the velocity and accuracy impacts of different black powders, black powder substitutes, and other factors. For your viewing pleasure, I hope, here is the Cap and Ball Fanatic Channel's Velocity and Accuracy Showdowns, the Ultimate Guide. Today, I'm going to respond to several versions of the same question I've been getting, and that question is, if you compare loads, same loads between Pyrodex and black powder, which one generates more muzzle velocity? So here we are in the Cap and Ball Fanatic loading shack, and I'm not going to take us through the loading process, but I'm going to show you what we're going to be comparing, and I'm going to compare Pyridex to 3F Scheutzen black powder in the same cap and ball revolver with the same loads, the same wads, the same 380 round balls, and the same percussion caps. And to do that, we're going to use one of my trusty 1851 Navies. We're going to be shooting 20 grains of both 3F Scheutzen black powder and Pyridex P. We're going to do 6 shots each through the chronograph. We're going to take a record of it, and then we're going to make our comparisons. I'm going to do what I can to make everything the same so that we can get an accurate reading on which of these powders, today anyways, generates higher muzzle velocity. All right, let's get started. Six good readings for the 3F Scheutzen powder. We got our readings. So now, 6 with 3F Scheutzen powder, 6 with Pyrodex P, both 20 grains by volume, through the same gun with the same 380 round balls and lubed wads and RWS 1075 caps. So let's take a look at the comparison and see which one generates the highest muzzle velocity. Scheutzen 3F black powder generated on average 527 feet per second, which translates to 54 foot-pounds of energy, while Pyridex generated on average 736 feet per second, which translates to 106 foot-pounds of energy. So we have an answer to our question, and that question was, on average, all things being equal, which powder generates the more muzzle velocity, Pyrodex P or real black powder? And in this case, in my 1851 Navy at 20 grains by volume, Pyrodex P clearly generates more muzzle velocity than does Scheutzen 3F black powder. How much more? 28% more on average feet per second and 49% more on average foot-pounds of energy. So that's a pretty clear victory. That's kind of a butt whooping if you ask me. But nonetheless, It was an awful lot of fun to find that out. Now, I've said, when you're shooting these things, I can't tell the difference. I couldn't tell the difference in the video. But I'll tell you what, the chronograph didn't lie. It tells us exactly what's going on. You know, a couple of weeks ago, I put out a video, Velocity Showdown, where I compared Pyrodex P to Scheutzen 3F powder through one of my 1851 navies. Well, ever since that video showed up, I've been getting some version of the message that says, hey, J-Stone, why'd you leave Swiss black powder out of the competition? So in this week's Cap and Ball Chronicles Black Powder Speed Test, we're going to compare 30 Scheutzen 3F black powder to Swiss 3F black powder, and we're going to shoot that in my 44 caliber Dance Brothers engraved revolver by Pieta. So here's how it's going to go. I'm going to load 30 grains of Scheutzen black powder over a lubed wad in a 454 round ball with RWS 1075 caps. I have marked my loader, my ramrod, so I know to try to get similar compression on each chamber. We'll take that out, fire it through the chronograph. We'll get our readings. I'll come back in, swab the barrel to get all the Scheutzen powder out of it. I'll then load 30 grains of Swiss 3F black powder in each cylinder over the lubed wads and the 454 round balls with the 1075 caps. We'll take it out. We'll fire 6 through the chronograph. We'll take our readings, and then we'll sit down and we'll make our comparison. There's 4. Okay, there's 6. All right, we're back again. Let's take a look at our results. So Scheutzen 3F powder averaged 724 feet per second, bringing 164 foot-pounds of energy. And Swiss averaged 890 feet per second, bringing an average of 248 foot-pounds of energy. So clearly, in this competition, Swiss is the winner. It gave us on average 19% higher feet per second, and on average, it gave us 34% more foot-pounds of energy. In today's video, we're going to look at the heavyweight championship of powders here at the Cap and Ball Fanatic range, where we're going to put the winners of our first 2 velocity showdowns head to head and see which one comes out on top. Stay with us. So you'll remember on Cap and Ball Chronicles a little while ago, I pitted Scheutzen 3F black powder against Pyrodex P, and Pyrodex P clearly came out on top in that velocity showdown. 2 weeks later, I pitted Scheutzen 3F black powder against Swiss 3F black powder, and Swiss 3F black powder largely came out on top by a wide margin. So that brings us to today's championship bout. We're going to pit 25 grains of Swiss 3F black powder against 25 grains of Pyridex P in my Colt 1861 Navy. We'll put 6 of each through the chronograph out there on the range, and we'll see who wins the heavyweight powder championship here on the Cap and Ball Chronicles. Let's get our readings and see how they compare. Swiss averaged 1,203 feet per second, leading to an average foot-pounds of energy of about 283, while Pyridex averaged 1,231 feet per second, leading to an average foot-pounds of energy of 296. All right, let's take a quick look at our results here in the heavyweight championship of the powder world at the Cap and Ball Chronicles. As you can see by the raw numbers, Pyrodex came out on top. But those are really close. So in any kind of research, and this is sort of loosely based research, there's always a margin of error. And I always think that a decent margin of error for something like this is plus or minus 5%. And what are the factors that could contribute to a margin of error? Well, everything from weather conditions to wind to loading conditions to compression differences slightly between cylinders. Given the fact that Pyrodex feet per second was only 2.3% more than Swiss black powder, and foot-pounds of energy was only 4.5% more, both of those results fall within the margin of error. So between me and you, I think this is a functional tie. And what do I mean by that? I mean that whether you're shooting Swiss black powder or Pyrodex P, you're going to get about the same punch. Sometimes it might even turn out a little different, but it's so close that it won't matter functionally in using cap and ball revolvers because shots from both of these powders are going to hurt. So today we're answering in another velocity showdown a viewer question, and it's right here. And that viewer asked, "Hey, J-Stone, thanks for the velocity showdowns. It was interesting. But why didn't you include 777 in that? A lot of us shoot 777, and we'd like to know the truth." Well, guess what? That's what we're going to do today. Those of you who watch the channel regularly will remember back in the early summer, I did 3 velocity showdowns. The first one was between Pyrodex P and Scheutzen 3F black powder, and Pyrodex P won that one in a landslide. The second one was between Scheutzen 3F black powder and Swiss 3F black powder, and Swiss 3F black powder won that one in a landslide. And then the final of that series was between Pyrodex P and Swiss 3F black powder. And while Pyrodex P came out on top in the velocity showdown through the chronograph, it was not outside the margin of error. So we called that one a toss-up. Well, today I'm bringing back the velocity showdowns between 777 and Pyrodex. So on today's video, that's exactly what we're going to do. All right, so let's get started. Our first 6 shots will be with 25 grains of Pyrodex P, a lubed wad, and a 454 round ball through the chronograph from about 12 yards. I will be recording the results on my phone through the Bluetooth app that Caldwell provides. So let's see what happens here. It's two good ones. All right, let's go look at our results. Go inside, swab out the barrel and the cylinder, and add some 777 and come back out and give that a shot next. This is the first time I've ever shot anything loaded with 777. I've never owned it before. So I have no idea what to expect. So let's put 6 through here and see if we can get 6 good readings. And then we'll do our comparisons. Let's get going. And 6. Okay, so what happened is on both of them, we got 5 good readings, an error on each one. So we're going to do our calculations over the 5 good readings. All right, let's look. We'll get to our results in just a minute. Okay, so we've done the chronograph speed test. Now we're going to put 6 shots each on their own targets off the bench at 20 yards. And we're going to see if same gun, same load, 25 grains of each powder, a 44 caliber lubed wad, a 454 round ball, RWS 1075 caps. Everything's the same gun. We're going to shoot 6 at the target off the bench, and let's see if either one shows us any kind of difference in accuracy. All right, first is 777. I'm aiming right at the center of the target. And that one's almost dead on. Six, that one went a little high. All right. So let's go take a look at our results, change targets, and do the same thing with Pyridex P. We're going to put 6 off the bench on that target. I've changed targets so we can do a direct comparison without getting myself anyways confused. So let's put 6 down there and see what happens. Right at the red dot. Here's 5. And there is 6. So let's go down and get our target. It's starting to rain some, so we'll see what that does to the rest of my shooting for a while. And we'll look at our targets and see where we stand. So the last step in our process today, and I'm having fun doing this, I hope you are too, is that we're going to load 6 of each in the 1860 Army. We're going to shoot offhand at 30 yards at Big Yellow, 25 grains of both 777 and Pyrodex P, lubed 44 caliber wad and a 454 round ball. So I'll start with Pyrodex P, and we'll take 6 at the big target. And remember, this has little to do with the powder as much as it does with me, but we'll give her a go and see if I can feel any difference at least, huh? There's 1. 2. All right, last round of the day. 6 shots at Big Yellow from 30 yards with 25 grains of 777, a 44 caliber lubed wad, and a 454 round ball in the 1860 Army. Let's see how we do. I haven't looked at the results, but this feels a little, 777 feels a little more of a pop in it. And how do I know that? Because it's between it and Pyridex, it's the only powder that's blowing pieces of cap back towards the action. That's 3. That, my friends, was 6 in a row at 30 yards on Big Yellow. All right, the shooting's all done. We put shots through chronograph. We put shots from the bench onto paper targets. We took shots from 30 yards at steel. I showed you some individual results along the way. Now let's take a look at our results in comparison and see if we can't find the winner of the 777 versus Pyridex velocity and accuracy showdown. Looking at our chronograph results in comparison, Pyridex averaged 741 feet per second and 172 foot-pounds of energy across its 5 shots. Compared to 777, 777 averaged 802 feet per second and almost 202 foot-pounds of energy across the 5 shots we loaded with 777. So what does that leave us? A clear velocity showdown winner, and that is 777. It averaged almost 8% more feet per second and 15% more foot-pounds of energy, and both of those are outside the margin of error. All right, so I think we answered our viewer's question pretty clearly when it comes to the velocity showdown. As you saw in this video, 777 clearly beat Pyridex in terms of velocity and foot-pounds of energy, averaging almost 8% more foot-pounds, or feet per second, I should say, and almost 15% more foot-pounds of energy. Both of those scores are outside the 5% plus or minus margin of error, so clearly the winner and champion across all of the powders that I've tested on the channel is 777. And again, this was the first time I ever shot 777. So, and I'd heard that it was faster, but actually I'm a little bit surprised. But I think I've cleared that up, at least for myself, that 777 grain for grain brings more feet per second and foot-pounds of energy than does Pyrodex. When it comes to the shooting part, especially the bench shooting, we had the Pyridex target, which was a pretty good group, a 2-inch group, just above the above the target here. I want to get this above the target here. Yeah, right there. And then we had the 777 target, which was here. Ironically, the eye test says that Pyrodex won this shoot. The string test says that 777 won the shoot, and that's largely because of these two that are touching. I can't see. These two here that are touching the bullseye. So from a string test perspective, this won. But from an eye test and accuracy perspective, if I was just out shooting, this would be the group that I would want. So from the bench target accuracy test, I'm deeming today Pyrodex as the winner, largely because of the smaller group and the tighter group, and it really does pass the eye test. It's hard to judge the 30 yards on steel. I hit all 6 with 777. I missed the first one and hit 5 in a row with Pyrodex. I think if you look closely at those targets, the Pyrodex targets probably were more in about a foot square on that target, and the 777 hits were all over the target, but that's impossible to judge. So we started today doing a velocity showdown, comparing 777 to Pyrodex, and we got a clear winner. 777. This week on the Cap and Ball Chronicles, I'm going to respond to a viewer question, and actually I've had this question about 7 or 8 times, but it's best represented by this right here that says, "Hey, Jay Stone, I've always wondered if barrel length makes a difference in revolver velocity and energy. So, does barrel length matter?" All right, to test our theory that barrel length does in fact matter in terms of velocity and energy, here's how we're going to do this today here on the Cap and Ball Fanatic range. We're going to shoot off against the 1860 Army made by Pieta, 44 caliber, with an 8-inch barrel, and we're going to shoot that against, through the chronograph, against our 1860 Army Sheriff model with a 5¼ inch barrel, also made by Pieta. Both revolvers will be loaded with 25 grains of Swiss 3F black powder, lubed wads over the powder, and a 454 home cast round ball ignited by Remington number 10 caps. We're going to shoot 6 from each through the chronograph, and we're going to take our measurements and take our results, and we're going to see how each one of them does. Now remember, my hypothesis here is twofold. One is that I believe this test will show us that longer barrel does lead to an increase in velocity and energy, but I also believe that it will be significantly more, that the long barrel will lead to significantly more velocity and foot-pounds of energy. And by significant, I mean it will be outside the plus or minus 5% margin of error. So let's get loaded up, head out to the range. I shot the chronograph. I shut the chronograph, but it's still working. That's a machine right there. So let's go. Let's go fix the chronograph and take 6 more. This has turned out to be quite a video. You saw me shoot the right front leg of the chronograph, and it kept working. So I just put it back together, and we'll see if we can't get six more shots through this things with good readings before we put it away for the night and see if we have to replace it. You know, I spend all my time shooting at targets and missing. I'm trying to miss the chronograph, and guess what? Hit it dead on. So, six more. I got readings. Good reading. Good reading and hit a steel target. Good reading and hit a steel target. Two more. Let's go take a look at the results and see if my hypothesis was correct. And as you recall, my hypothesis is that the longer barrel would increase velocity and energy significantly. So what did we learn? We learned that my hypothesis was both proven and disproven. It was proven because the 1860 Army 44 caliber with an 8-inch barrel produced higher velocity and higher foot-pounds of energy than the 1860 Army 5 1/4 inch barrel sheriff model. However, it was disproven because the results weren't significantly more. By that I mean they didn't fall outside the margin of error. What does that mean for a result? We learned that barrel size length does matter, just not as much as I would have thought, at least in this test on this day. Greetings, Jay Stone here. It's a beautiful day to be alive on this special Era Is Gone Bullet Molds edition of the Cap and Ball Chronicles. Hey, you're going to want to stick around today because we're going to be comparing conicals to round balls off the bench for accuracy, through the chronograph for energy and power, and at distance for fun. Thanks to the graciousness of Mark Hubbs, the owner of Era Is Gone Bullet Molds. He sent me a mold for his newer 36 caliber Colt Navy conical bullet, 140 grains. This mold was made based on the specs of an original 1850s Colt Navy conical bullet mold, where millions of these things were made in the 50s and the 60s through the Civil War. This is about as exact a replica of the Colt Navy 36 caliber that you can get. 140 grains, 380 at its widest point. So today we're going to put it to the test in one of my 1851 Colt Navies. And here is, I hope you can see that, here is the conical bullet, the original looking Colt Navy conical bullet, 140 grains, 36 caliber. It's 380, which I like because I use 380 round balls. And what we're going to do is I'm going to load these. We're going to fire some off of the bench. We're going to fire them at targets. We're going to compare how they feel and how they shoot to some 380 round balls. And then once we're through that, we'll shoot some offhand at different targets like we usually do. Let's get started. We're going to shoot off the bench at about 22 yards, 23 yards at paper, and we're going to see if we can get a group going. So let's give it a go. Aiming right at the red dot. As usual, the hardest part about shooting off the bench is getting my big behind down to the bench. No, we got one more. I can't count. Public school education. Can't count to 6. That one's right on the bullseye. But for comparison's sake, now we're going to put 12 380 round balls. And I'm shooting those 380 round balls. Everything is the same, 17 grains of 3F Swiss black powder. I'm using a lubed wad and the 380 round ball. Now, this gun, this 1851 Navy squareback, is by Pieta. And Pieta's twist rate is usually 1 in 30. So, if I were to hypothesize, given the 1 in 30 twist and not the tighter twist, which is more made for conicals, conical accuracy, I would guess that the 1 in 30 twist, this would probably do better with round balls than it did with conicals. But I've seen others say that, and it didn't work out that way. So let's check it out. Six more 380 round balls. Let's see how we do. So when I was shooting these, both the conicals and the round balls next to each other, one right after another on the bench, it feels like there's a lot more recoil, more pop to the conical. So I have the chronograph out here, and I'm going to shoot it from the bench this time, because for those of you that remember the last time I used the chronograph, shooting it offhand, I shot the chronograph. So I'm going to try not to hit the chronograph today, and we're going to put 6 Colt Navy conicals, hopefully through it, not into it, and we'll see what our results are. Let's go. All right, we're going to put 6 380 round balls, lubed wad, 17 grains of Swiss 3F black powder through the chronograph. We'll make our comparisons. Okay, we've done our examining, we've done our testing. Now let's have some fun. 31 yards, 36 caliber Navy conical bullet from 31 yards at Big Orange. Now that we've shot it off the bench and we were able to hit something, let's see if I can hit it free-handed. It's always a risk, but let's try. Okay, so you know I like to finish on long shots, right? Well, here I am out at 50 yards, about ready to put 6 at Big Yellow, and I realized that I didn't cast enough Colt Navy Conicals to finish the video. So I have one shot. That's all I've got, is one shot from about 52 yards. Boy, that is some enormous pressure, don't you think? Let's take that one shot and see if we can finish on a high note. All right, so I hope you enjoyed today our comparisons between the Ears Gone bullet mold 36 caliber Colt Navy Conical and 380 round balls from time to time. We compared them, as you recall, in accuracy off the bench. We did the string test, and the Conicals came out on top. About 12% tighter group than the round balls. We counted the top 10 out of 12 because I had flyers, 2 flyers for both of them. So that's how I did it, and it came out about 12% better. When we put these through the chronograph, thank God we put them through it and not on it. Clearly, the heavier weight conical bullet from Ears Gone bullet mold made a big difference. It trounced the round balls using the same powder charge of 17 grains in both foot-pounds or feet per second and foot-pounds of energy, with foot-pounds of energy being 57% greater on average. So now I know why people wanted conicals when they were in battle, because I'm telling you what, if you bring that conical, this conical, the way it measured today, to a gunfight, you've got stopping power. Well, there you have it. A compilation of my velocity and accuracy showdown videos, all in one place under the heading of the Ultimate Guide. Now, we collected some good data in these videos. I'm pleased with it. I know the effort that I put in to make sure that in each of these videos, the conditions were comparable, the loading was comparable, the guns were comparable. I tried my best to make this as experimental as humanly possible, recognizing that it's not a controlled experiment, and that these are just the findings that I claim in my tests in 2024. If I were to do them all over again in 2025, some of the results may stay the same, some of them may be different, because there are so many environmental and loading factors that go into making these things sort of scientific, that and as a former researcher, there's no way I would claim that what I found is exactly what you will find. But I think it serves as a good guideline for y'all when it comes to decision making about powders, round balls, conical bullets, barrel lengths, depending upon what your shooting goals are. So use them as you will. I think they're fairly accurate, but I did use a 5% plus or minus margin of error to try to account for some of those human variables that we can't really account for on a range out here in West Michigan. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it serves, as I said, as a jumping off point for you doing some of your own testing, or for figuring out what works best for you. I'm really looking forward to 2025 and a whole new series of videos. I've got some great things planned. You know that some things will come up along the way. If there are things you want to see as we move into the better weather months, please drop me an email or drop something in the comments. I monitor them, and as you know, I answer every comment that I get on my videos. So again, I hope you enjoyed this. I certainly enjoyed it. We'll see you again on Down the Road the next time.